In today's video, we have, like I said, a very special guest. His name is Tahib, but a few years back he was also known as Tyler. And the reason for that is because he converted to Islam a few years ago, and today we have him with us. Right now he runs a YouTube channel where he gives tips and advice to new converts and where he talks about social issues in the Muslim community, sort of like what we're doing right here on this YouTube channel. So we had a chance to grab him and really get to talk to him about his experiences, what his life was like before he converted, why did he convert, and what was the challenges and struggles and experiences in his life after he converted to Islam, like with his family, with marriage, and all of this good stuff. So if you want to listen to that, then please stay tuned. But yeah, with that said, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Jazakallahu khair for subscribing to the YouTube channel, and please do continue to support us. Sahib, how are you?
Yeah, alhamdulillah, I'm well. Thank you. Yourselves?
Likewise.
Alhamdulillah, man.
What have
All
you been
good.
up to today?
Sleeping mostly. I was still at work at 6 o'clock this morning, so yeah, I came home, went to bed, and I woke up a few hours ago.
Okay.
You work
No,
night
then-
shifts?
Yeah, 12
Yeah,
hours.
right,
12
I see.
hours, oh, that's
Mashallah,
crazy.
man.
Yeah.
Mashallah, man. Yeah, I don't know. I can never work night shifts. Like for me, like I'm always awake at night. Like I'd say I'm a night owl because I just stay awake at night and go sleep during the day. It's horrible, but then when it comes to like working at night, I can't do that.
I just found it was easier because when I first started the job, it was you were doing 12 hours anyway, but it was you were doing 3 days from 6 in the morning till 6 at night, and then another 3 days 6 at night till 6 in the morning, and it was messing up my sleep schedule. So
Okay.
I
Right.
said, well, let me just do all nights, and yeah, that's easier for me that way. And it's cheap, works out
What do you
cheaper
work
as well.
as? Sorry if you don't mind me asking.
I work in security. I'm
Oh,
a
right,
night
okay.
guard, basically.
Night guard,
Yeah.
right, okay, right.
Oh, okay, sweet. Yeah, and you've hit 1K subscribers now, mashallah.
Yeah.
man.
Yeah, alhamdulillah, man. Like it blew up like within I think maybe the last 2-3 days.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
crazy. What was your sub count before 3 days ago?
I think it was maybe about 500 a week ago, and
Yeah,
then
okay.
it got to 600 within that week, and then that was 600 when I left work. When I woke up the next day, it was at 770 something.
Yeah.
By the time I'd gotten to work that day, so a couple of hours later, it was at 800.
Subhanallah, man.
Then I think it hit 900 right at midnight, and then after that, it went up to 1,000.
That is crazy.
Oh.
That is crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, like
And you're still growing as well.
I saw
Yeah.
the videos. I saw the videos. You were like, I hit 500 subscribers. Right. Next thing you know, I had 600. Then like 2
Yeah.
hours later, I hit 800.
Yeah.
Wow,
It was getting to the point
subhanallah.
where it was happening so quickly, I didn't actually know what to say in those videos because, like,
'cause
literally nothing had changed.
Yeah, you just recorded one like 5 minutes ago. And it's
Yeah.
like, yeah. What more can I say right now? I get you, man. I think I said it. I told you yesterday. Like something crazy happened, right?
Yeah.
Alright, so basically, I guess like I'm being 100% honest. I'm not saying this for like, for any reason. Just because this is legit what happened, right? So, when I saw, I think it was your 500 subscriber video, or your 600. I think it was the 500 subscriber video, right? Yeah. So when I was commenting on that video, right, my original comment that I wrote down, wallah, I swear to God, yeah, this is what I wrote down. I wrote down, may Allah get you to 1K subscribers. I wrote that.
Subhanallah.
And then like, I made that dua myself in it, but then I was like, maybe I shouldn't write it. I'm not too sure. So I was like, may Allah just give you more success in it afterwards. But that was actually what I wrote down the first time, and it's mad. So when I saw like you getting up for like 800, I was like, yeah, I had a feeling it was coming. It's crazy. It's crazy,
Yeah.
man.
I don't know if you guys have ever had that where you've made a dua for something and then literally like right after you make the dua, it actually happens to the point where you have to kind of look back up and go, well, that was fast.
Yeah.
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 Yeah, you got Allah on speed dial.
Yeah.
Alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah.
Right,
But,
that's the thing, you know.
I mean, while I'm obviously happy to see the channel grow, I wish it was for like other reasons, because when I first started out in like doing Islamic social media content, I was just doing like social reminders, which is one of the reasons I like your guys' podcast so much, because it's kind of aimed at the same audience.
Yeah.
But it wasn't until like I did videos talking about other people that was what was getting the views.
Yeah, it's true.
So, like Mr. Watois first, I think that got up to like 3,000. Yet, like my reminder about why alcohol is haram only got a couple of hundred.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of a shame that like my most recent or my most viewed video to date, I think is now, I think it might be at like 14K. But that was a video that I was talking about the Dawood Kim situation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so that's why I feel it's kind of a shame that that's the video that's got 14K when I've got better videos out there.
Out there, yeah.
No.
That makes sense. Now, I think over time, when you develop a decent, audience that is loyal to you, your other videos will start to grow as well. It happens with all the big kind of like, social media influencers, where they will get to a certain point where you'll see that if you go back like 6 years ago, and their old videos will start to grow considerably, because all their loyal fan base, they want to check out their old videos, and then that will start popping off.
Yeah.
Not even that. It's like, let's say you're making these sort of reaction videos to trending topics, right? You can still make those other content in it. I think what it is like these sort of trending topics is what gets you discovered on YouTube. Yeah. So that's what gets people to see your channel in the first place, because, in all honesty, I don't think people type in too much, like, let's say alcohol is a haram. Probably not that many people type it in, but they'll type in like, Mr. Whatwa and stuff like that. They'll type these things in. But then once they see your channel and then they subscribe, then I feel like 100% they will be very inclined to look at your if you then post a video, let's say on alcohol is haram, they'll be 100% inclined to look at that. I'd say, like, let's say one thing I did, right? So on the latest video, it was about Dawood Kim, right? So alhamdulillah, like that video got mad views, alhamdulillah. It's on 1K views now. And we got about, just since yesterday, we got about like, I think 75 subscribers since last night, alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah.
And what I'd say is, like, in that video, like, the video was about Dawood Kim, but within the video I spoke about, okay, this is why alcohol is haram. I actually mentioned that, like, sort of using it as an example. This is why we shouldn't generalize Muslims. This is why, you can get forgiveness. It's like you got these subtopics that are inside it, but we're using that sort of example or that situation as an example. So I think there's ways of working around it. You should be 100% proud of like your 14K video. I think it's a really good video because it's not like you made very solid points. That's why people liked it. So 100% you should be proud of that video.
Well, that was the odd thing, because I think I'd heard of Dawood Kim maybe once before that video. Yeah. Because most of the prominent YouTubers I follow are either in the UK or the US. Like, I don't even really follow ones in mainland Europe.
Yeah.
So when someone first reached out to me about that to say like, oh, Dawood Kim and Young's World, another South Korean revert brother, are having beef, and would I mind doing a video on it and offering to mediate the situation? Which I said, yeah, of course, that's not a problem at all. It wasn't until after I made that video that everything else started to come out of the woodwork. And that's why I had to make another video. It was a clickbait title where I said, Dawood Kim exposed. I only put that hoping that it would get the same amount of views so I could clarify a point. Because people started commenting on my original video saying that I was blaming the victim. And I said, I'm not talking about the victim at all. I'm just trying to mediate the issues between these two brothers. That's all I'm trying to do.
Yeah.
And the amount of like rumors that I've heard about this entire situation, everything from the sister in the situation being drunk, to her not being drunk, to her not being Muslim, to her being Islamophobic, and has been trying to attack Dawood Kim for years. And it's just eventually I just had to say, you know what, Allah knows best. All I can hope is that everyone in this situation gets the justice that they truly deserve.
Yep.
Like I say, from an Islamic standpoint, Dawood Kim, if he repented for it, he accepted Islam, his sins have been washed away. If from a South Korean legal standpoint, he still has something to answer for, then that's entirely up to them. I don't know how their legal system works.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, you can ask Mohammed. I said the exact same thing yesterday when we were talking about it in private conversation, and I said to him that from an Islamic standpoint, you're supposed to call out / defend based on public information about whoever's involved, right?
Yeah,
so we had the police report, we had his statement, and obviously the victim statement within the police report as well. And I said exactly what you said. If there's anything further to be discussed in terms of investigation, the police will take that up, right? But as far as we know,
place to do so.
Exactly, like all these rumors, all this information, it's just he said what she said, right? So based on what we actually have verified, we can establish that he is at least trying to, or has done in the past, made sincere repentance. And based on that fact, we should defend him as our Muslim brother and his honor, of course.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And it's like I said as well, it's like in these type of situations, there's three sides to the story. There's going to be his side, there's going to be her side, and then in the middle, there's going to be the actual unadulterated truth.
True.
Which only obviously they and Allah know. Yeah. So, because even the police can only act upon what they've been told.
Yeah, exactly.
So, at the end of the day, like I say, it's up to their legal system to handle it however they see fit. But in an Islamic sense, he's fine.
Yeah.
And like to say, I'm not saying that to victim shame in any way, form, or fashion. Yeah. I'm merely stating the Islamic viewpoint on this.
Yeah, definitely. 100% is correct. I don't know, like Saad could tell you, like when we posted our video, we posted a clip on After School Dawah, the Instagram page. We got quite a bit of hate for that post. Yeah. Everyone was like, "Oh, you're sympathizing with him, this and that." I'm like, I'm not sympathizing with him. I said, like, if his repentance is genuine, right? I'm not saying it is. I don't know. Only Allah knows. If it is genuine, then of course he's forgiven. That's just how Islam works. I'm not going to tell you how it doesn't work. That's just how it works, And of course, like you said, the situation, like, when it comes to rumors, if you start looking at rumors, you'll just go in a cycle because this person will say that person will say this, and we'll just go on, For us, we can only look at, like, okay, public facts, right? And that's about it. When you look at rumors, and it's like, who's there to verify those type of things? And you can really say anything.
Yeah, and at that point, you can risk falling into slander as well if you say something that isn't, true about someone.
Yeah, and that's kind of what happened with me with the Mr. Watois situation when that first came out. Are you guys familiar with that whole scenario at all?
I saw a small bit of it.
Yeah, I saw your video. Not all of them. I saw one of your videos on Mr. So it was about, if I'm correct, it was like he converted to Islam, but for his conversion, he had this campaign going, which he wanted like £100,000 or something like that.
Yeah. Basically, I'll start from the very beginning with that and just like speak all the way through. I remember I was scrolling through like one of Muhammad Hijab's posts on Instagram. Because I was reading through the comments because there was a massive like atheist versus morality debate going on.
Yeah.
And someone happened to comment, "Oh, can you speak on the Mr. Watois situation?" I'm like, well, what's going on with him? Because I've always known who he was, but I stopped following him after a while because it seemed like he was only doing reaction videos purely for views. He was never intending to take it any further, which I said, no, if that's what he wants to do, that's fine, but it's just I just won't subscribe to him. So that's when I looked into it, and the way that he explained it anyway, I'm sorry for the light keep shining behind me. I'm going to see if I can kind of scooch over a little bit here. Was I want to set up this Shahada Foundation. I need $100,000 to set this up, and I want to be the first person to take my Shahada under this foundation. So essentially, he was saying, I need to make 100K before I can take my Shahada, which, at least from the way that it came across, came across suspect. So why I made that first video, because I was speaking from a place of very strong emotion. Obviously, I've pulled the video down now. I've apologized for it because I said some things that, quite frankly, I shouldn't have said. Because I said, you are committing fraud, You know, I made it sound like it was a very definite thing without having the literal evidence to hand.
Yeah.
Which is why I then made several other videos apologizing for it, retracting that video. I've pulled the videos and any slanderous ones down. I was just as quick to react to his Shahada video when he posted it, and I also apologized to him publicly on his channel, because it wasn't something I made without. I never wanted to be right about that situation, because if I was right, it means that he was committing fraud.
Yeah.
So I made those videos hoping to be wrong the entire time. And I wasn't the only one, obviously, who thought that. I was just, I think, the first person to actually make a video about that situation, which I think then made the rounds, because I think Ali Dawah was made aware of it, Way of Life SQ was made aware of it, Smile to Jannah. I told Smile to Jannah about it. He just ignored it.
Yeah.
But the only problem is that fell out from that is people who were on my side of the issue, and even some of my own subscribers, then went on to Way of Life SQ's channel when he made his video and started slandering the brother SQ there. So then obviously I then had to go there and tell, look, listen, stop, because some of his followers thought that I was telling my people to say that. And I was like, no, I'm not telling them to do this at all. I have nothing but love and respect for brother SQ. I've said that publicly in a video as well. And whatever they're saying off their own. But that's when it hit me, like, how quickly things can escalate. So and and as they say, hindsight's 20/20. So when I was going back and rewatching those videos, I was just cringing the entire time, because I was like, I really shouldn't have said that. That was wrong, and especially now that he's become Muslim as well. On top of that, so that's why I just hid the videos, because the views were still going up.
Right.
And so I was like, I need to. I'll just make them private so nobody else can see them.
Fair enough.
I get you. You know what? A massive respect for that as well, though. Like, sometimes when we make content or we make an opinion, a lot of people, they tend to be quite arrogant with the fact, so they don't like being proven wrong. But obviously for you were like, okay, look, I made a mistake, so I'm gonna take it down, I'm gonna apologize. So that's a lot of respect for that, man. A lot of respect for that. I wanted to ask, because obviously you sort of mentioned that you weren't too happy with what video it was that got the 14K views, right? So what is your plan for the future when it comes to your YouTube channel?
Basically, I've always wanted to do something in regards to social media, and then obviously when I became Muslim, that became my niche to work with, if you will. So I've always wanted to make videos dealing with social reminders, but from an Islamic perspective. So as opposed to just saying this is haram because it says so in the Quran, but also give real world examples of why it's haram,
like practical reasons.
Exactly. So I'd really like to do that, and just to help spread, like I say, Islam through social dawah, as opposed to like you say, religious lectures, for example, because I'm no scholar by any means, which is one of the reasons that I don't really talk about religious issues that much. So you'll never see me quoting hadiths and Quran verses, because I've done that a couple of times, and in the comment section, people actually said, well, actually, that's not what this verse means. And so just due to a lack of knowledge on my part. So, and I'm not saying that I won't maybe get there someday, but for the level that I'm at now, like I say, it's just dealing with social issues from an Islamic perspective and spreading the dawah through that way.
Right, okay.
100%. So a lot like what we're kind of doing as well. Social issues, we're talking about social issues too. But yeah, again, like same over here with After School Dawah. We always tell ourselves, like, listen, we're not scholars, we're not sheikhs, we're not going to pretend that we are. But obviously, alhamdulillah, like, let's say between the three of us, we went to an Islamic grammar school, and we got a bit of education. So we use what we can, but we don't try and push ourselves outside of what we can't do. 100%. So yeah, so you're going to sort of move towards or go back towards the whole social issues. Are you going to still make like videos, like reactory videos?
I don't see why not. I wouldn't make reactory videos, because obviously if something comes up, then as I'm getting more into, I guess, the public light, for lack of a better term, it's almost kind of expected that you should have an opinion on it. Whether that opinion is 100%. The popular opinion or not is obviously a different story, but to see, it's almost seen by a lot of people, because I've thought this about other people as well, is the fact that, like to not have an opinion on it is almost considered as wrong or lazy or whatever the case may be.
Yeah,
So,
especially when you've already been making these videos, people expect that.
So in a sense, I've kind of almost trapped myself because of that, because now it almost means that the next time a scandal comes along, which obviously it will happen, I've now almost got to make a video on it, which, and also especially now that obviously where my subscriber base is going, because if someone hadn't have mentioned Dawood Kim, I would have had no idea that this was even going on.
Right.
Until like a few days after everyone else has already spoken about it. It's like with the whole Hassanat situation way back when that happened. I had no idea who these people were until everything had already come out about them. So, but so essentially now that I've done that, potentially I'll probably, every time something comes up, I'll probably have to do a video on it, which isn't, like I say, necessarily a bad thing. Like when the whole Netflix cuties thing came out.
Oh, yeah.
So obviously it's not just Muslims that are outraged by that. A lot of Christians, a lot of non-religious people are outraged by it because
definitely
it's sexualizing children. So, like I say, I have no problem doing, like I say, videos like that because it's something that needs to be made awareness of. I just don't want my channel to turn into like every video is just me exposing someone now. Because that I find that as a very kind of sad way to live your YouTube life, if you will.
I guess what I'd have to say is, obviously, at the end of the day, obviously you have your subscriber base and they'll have an expectation of you, but at the end of the day, it's your channel. You can do what you want with it. I think it's right now it might be a good mix to have both, have videos on social issues and have reactory videos on, like you said, on incidences, scandals that happen. And then I guess, of course, like over time you could slowly maybe reduce like the exposing type of videos, and increase the social issues type of videos. Definitely, I mean, my advice would be like, listen, it's your channel. You can and should do what you want with it. I guess the last thing anyone would want is to make videos on something they don't believe in. You get me?
Yeah, exactly.
I think that's what would be sad, like that's kind of like, let's say with us, like let's say me, Saad, Tahmid, we've been involved in the Dawah community in universities and stuff, and like throughout the UK and like youth camps and everything. And the reason why we recently started after school Dawah, one of the reasons is because it's our own thing. It's our own thing and we can do it the way we want. For example, let's say I've been a part of like Islamic society and etc. Over there, it's limited how much I can do. Let's say, the person above me wants me to have an event on this, give a talk on that. I can't say no. I can't say no, I don't want to do that. But with After School Dawah, now, because it's our thing, we have control over what we want to post and what we don't want to post.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think that freedom is very liberating to have. So definitely keep that up and don't think that you don't need to have that. Another point I wanted to make, right? Just going back to the whole, like, I think Saad asked a question about, for those people who have, they're thinking about Islam, right? And they're very inclined towards it. But then someone comes up and they're like, wait a minute, but Aisha was this age. Oh, but the Prophet did this. But Islam says this. Islam says death punishment. Islam says this, blah, blah, blah. And a lot of these misconceptions or these questions or these doubts come into mind. And what I have to say about that is that the reason why these questions or these misconceptions come about is because there are people, wallahi, there are people who try their best to make Islam look bad. And they probably studied years themselves just to look for these things buried in Islam. Right?
Oh, of course.
And, try and, skew it up and everything. So definitely, like, it's not something that, you're learning about, like, taqwa and stuff. You're not just going to find out about Islamic jurisprudence just like that. And like Tahib said, there are resources online. A resource I would recommend is Yaqeen Institute. Right, is a website and where they talk a lot about misconceptions and stuff. Like, for example, if someone ever asked me the question of Aisha radiallahu anha and her age, I'd be like, yo, just watch this video by Yaqeen Institute. They have like a 1 hour long video on it that explains absolutely everything, and that's it. So definitely there are resources online now. One thing that's interesting, like you, before you mentioned, like, sort of this hesitation to go to the masjid because it was like sort of something unknown. Yeah, I think, and then the fact that the imam was young and that's what helps you relate to him. Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I think even for like, Muslims nowadays, like young Muslim, like the Muslim youth, obviously because we're in this country, we speak English with our friends. We speak English around, like, usually, like, for example, for me, I speak English with my dad even, so when you have imams who are old, who are from back home, it's very hard for the youth to be relatable with them. But definitely when you have an imam, when you have people in the masjid who are sort of, younger, sort of born and brought up here as well, it's much easier for us to relate. I know that, like, right now I have 2 masjids near me, and there was a point in time when they were run by like old people from back home who couldn't even speak English, right? And as youth, we felt very disconnected from the mosque at the time. But alhamdulillah,
absolutely.
Alhamdulillah now, like in your situation, like the imam at like Makki Mosque, right? He's about like 25 years old or something, 25, 27.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a bit young.
Well, he's like, obviously there's the main imam, and then he's the imam's son who's sort of taking charge of things. But subhanAllah, he's doing such a great job with it.
Alhamdulillah.
And then obviously like Shafran Mosque over there, like, there are a lot of people who, like when we were young, we used to go there, right? And there's them people who are sort of young adults now, 35 years old and etc. And they're sort of taking charge, and making events and stuff like that. And I think it's a really, really good opportunity. And obviously for those of you watching and, you're not Muslim and you're interested about it, don't hesitate to go to the masjid and check it out. Like the masjids, like Tahib can testify to this, they're more than welcome to having you there and listening to you. I guess a question I wanted to ask you, right? Because I've met quite a few like people who are interested in faith at university and stuff, right? Their biggest concern when it came to, and I know you addressed this a little bit, right? But the biggest concern when it comes to Islam is how their family and friends will react to them. I know some, I know this one girl who, when she told her parents about that she wanted to become Muslim, right? Her parents were Hindus, right? When she told her parents that she wanted to become Muslims, they kicked her out. They kicked her out the house. She got disowned, So there for a lot of people there can be this real threat of just being disowned or being shunned or rejected by the community. What advice would you give to them?
I think it might be slightly different depending on the community that they're in. So, for example, like I think historically Hindus and Muslims have had problems before. So potentially that might have been one of the reasons for the anger. They also, if they were, for example, strict Hindus, that might have also been a case as well as it would have been if they were strictly Christian or whatever the case may be. So, for example, in a video where I talk about like, right, when you become Muslim, who do you tell? If you do not feel safe telling your family, don't. Pray, because obviously at the end of the day, if you're in a position where you can't pray because of whatever reason, you are genuinely, if you can't pray for fear that you'll get hurt by praying, like obviously from your parents or whoever the case may be, you are allowed to delay it to the point until you can go somewhere where you can.
Yeah. 100%.
Or even if it's a case of like where you have to pretend to be asleep in order to be able to do your prayers or whatever it is, that's fine. Obviously, the only thing potentially that you might not be able to do is obviously in regards to the Hindu, because I don't know what their practices and beliefs are, is like if it involves praying to an idol, fair enough, you might not be able to do that because I don't. But unless it's, I believe the Islamic rules in this are unless it's forced. So
if it's something to endanger your life.
So if potentially in that case, then obviously fair enough, do what you need to do, because I think this actually leads into another good point, is that's actually what taqiyya is. It's denying your Islamic faith for the sake of self-preservation. So in a case like this, it technically would be okay, because if she turned around and said, I'm not praying to these idols, I'm Muslim now, her parents would have immediately thrown her out of the house. If she had nowhere else to go, that could endanger her life.
Yeah, 100%.
So, yeah, at least until she's able to, like, say, if she's able to move out of the house or move into like a shared house with only women.
I mean, it's the same concept that you see in the early Sunnah, right? When you study the biography of the Prophet, there were, I think, for the first 3 years, if I remember correctly, there was no public preaching of Islam. It was all secret and in private. There were private groups. There were secret groups.
It was only until Umar ibn al-Khattab accepted Islam that it remained private.
And he was a major figure as well, for him within the Quraysh, within the clan of the Prophet, to accept tribe of the Prophet, to accept Islam. So yeah, I think that's fine to an extent. What you're saying is, trying. I know Ali Dawah had issues actually. He still has issues now, even as a 30 whatever old man, with kids and a wife. His mom is fine with. Obviously, she's Muslim, but his dad was never okay with it. So even when he goes to his parents' house now, I think he still prays in the garden outside the house because his dad doesn't like him praying inside the house. So there's ways around it, sure, definitely, and you should try your best to sustain and maintain and uphold your Islamic commitments, because that's ultimately what you're there to please Allah. But if you're in a real threat of something that might be life-threatening, then do what you may have to do in order to preserve yourself.
Yeah.
100%. Let me ask you this question, right? Obviously, you've been learning about Islam, you learned about taqwa, and I think you mentioned that the reason why you looked into these things is because you were like, is life just me, like, getting married, having a kid, and then dying, that's it, right? And then obviously when you learned about Islam, was there anything specific that made you think, okay, you know what, this is it?
Apart from like the general message of Tawheed and monotheism, in the fact that it doesn't reject the previous scriptures, it builds upon them. So obviously it doesn't say that Jesus never existed, because obviously history proves that Jesus alayhi salam, that he was a real person. So, and also the fact that the more you look into it, when you look the fact that, like, for example, the science has now proven that honey is better for you than antibiotics are in certain cases, as like a decongestion. Well, Islam's been saying that for 1400 years. Science is now trying to catch up to Islam, not the other way around. But when you just generally just look into some of the things that Islam says, it naturally makes sense. Whenever I've had doubts, and there will always become things that will cause me to have a crisis of faith at some point, whenever in life. The thing that kind of makes me come back to it is the fact that the Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, in one of his obviously prophecies about the end of times, was that it will not come until after Constantinople was conquered by an Islamic army. Now, obviously, as we know, Constantinople at the time of the Prophet, peace be upon him, was part of the Byzantine Empire, being one of the biggest superpowers in the world at that time. I mean, that's like, do you mind if I ask, what part of Manchester are you guys both from Manchester?
Yeah, both Manchester.
What part of Manchester? Is it city centre or is it?
So
close by city centre for me. I live alongside.
I'm more south of Manchester.
Okay, so it's basically like him saying that Muslims will conquer Constantinople is like saying a group of kids from the small part of Manchester that you guys might live in will one day conquer the United States. At the time of saying that is impossible to believe. Yet it happened 600 years after his death.
I mean, there's a very good book on this actually that's written by the IERA team called Forbidden Prophecies, and it expands upon kind of the false prophecies by previous prophets, like, and even civilizations like the ancient Maya, and then also, you know, famously known people like Nostradamus. And it talks about how their prophecies were quite kind of vague. They could have easily been predicted with any knowledge of like socio-political circumstances, or you know, financial circumstances, economical circumstances, or whatever, right? But the prophet was saying these very, very unbelievable things. They were almost, you know, completely out of, like, number one, you know, you could argue that if he said it for fame, then why would he say something such as, you know, we're gonna conquer Constantinople, which got him laughed at by the, you know, by the Quraysh. And he says, I see the jewels of such and such faraway empires. I think he says, I see Yemen, I see Syria, I see all these faraway places that were ruled by the Persian and Byzantine empires. So how, you know, it literally got him laughed at and mocked by the Quraysh, because he was saying, how are you guys going to go from a group of, you know, barely 1,000 to something that can conquer hundreds of thousands of, you know, soldiers.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
So and also, like, so that's kind of, that hadith is what clears up any crisis of doubt that I've had, is if he can predict things that then came true hundreds of years after his death that were incredibly specific.
Yep.
That means that the things that haven't come true just means they haven't come true yet.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's also, for example, like, so for example, the Prophet, peace be upon him, said that obviously the day of judgment will not come until after I've died. Now, if that was the only thing that he'd ever said, that is a very, without trying to sound disrespectful, it's a very convenient thing to say.
Yeah.
Because that means if it doesn't happen, then there's no recourse upon him because he's dead.
Yeah.
But it's like when he said that, like, the Euphrates River will dry up.
Yeah.
He didn't say it would evaporate. He said because I'm assuming the Arabic words are different for dry up and evaporate.
Yeah.
Because the Euphrates River is drying up, not through global warming or climate change, but because Turkey's installing dams that is causing parts of it in Iraq to be barren, essentially. It almost looks like a group of puddles now in certain places.
Yeah, so, it's crazy how, like, a man from 1,400 years ago could just sit here and say that, okay, this is going to happen.
Yeah. Like, because obviously some of his prophecies are somewhat, for lack of a better term, convenient. Such as when he said that children will not listen to their parents. Well, every generation is worse than the generation before. Yeah. So, you know, that was, like I say, natural. But so if all of his prophecies were, like I say, convenient, it would be a different story. But there's no way that a man 1,400 years ago in the middle of a desert who couldn't read or write could be able to predict something like that in the ways that he had with any sort of accuracy at all, unless he was either the only true psychic to have ever existed or it was divinely inspired.
And I think going back to, sorry to cut you off, going back to what you said before, is everyone has this natural state of you know, Tawheed. That is something in Islam that we call the Fitra, which is the innate disposition, right? And every person has that. Every person is born with it. And there's been research done, I think, previously that I can't remember the exact. I think it might have been Pew Research, but I don't remember. You might have to look it up. But it was, you know, these, I don't know how many groups of kids they took that were like under 5 or something, and they slowly raised them up in a environment of no religious influence, basically, right? And tried to maintain as like neutral of a you know, kind of interference as possible, right? So there was nothing outside, no kind of forced perspective onto them, and they you know, when they grew up, they kind of questioned them on what you believe, and they believe we believe there is a creator, we believe he's one in number, right? And we believe there's some way that he's trying to communicate with us, and so you can just tell that if you leave someone alone a long enough period without any external influence, they will eventually go back to their fitra. And actually, this hasn't even been documented in cases such as the IRA, the Dawah organization, when they go to these faraway African countries, right? I mentioned this in the last episode, when they go to like these countries within the Philippines, within Africa, etc. The people there, you know, they're very tribal people. They're very in touch with nature. They're very in touch with like the spiritual aspect of stuff, right? When you go there, you tell them about the message of Islam. Literally every single time they've been there, almost everyone has accepted Islam. If not everyone, I'm pretty sure everyone has accepted Islam. They will literally start saying the Shahada the same day. They will start praying the same day. They will start learning how to read the Quran the same day, just because it all fits in line with their natural, innate disposition.
Because, like, really, I've always basically believed in God in some way, form, or fashion, apart from maybe like a week in high school where it was cool to be an atheist.
Yeah.
But yeah, it doesn't really count. But at the same time, it's like, for example, so I'm sure you guys have seen the debate with Muhammad Hijab and Cosmic Skeptic.
Yeah.
It's like, well, obviously, yes, it's like, well, fair enough. I'm assuming your parents have never had to sit you down and tell you that murder is wrong.
Yeah.
For example, it's something you've always known.
Yeah, of course.
Now,
yeah.
how have we always known that?
Yeah.
And people say, oh, well, it's part of your natural instinct. Okay, well, where does the natural instinct come from? Like, something we have to be, at the very least, given a push in the right direction in order to develop the instinct.
Yeah.
Which is something that's why science will never be able to disprove religion. So I was talking to a Christian friend of mine, and he said that, well, we were talking about atheists, and he said, well, in order to be able to say that specifically and categorically that there is no God, it means that you have to know every single literal thing about the universe that has ever been in order to be able to say that there is no God. So, for example, like, I can make the claim now that I've got £1 million in my wardrobe. I don't, and you guys said, well, you're lying. Well, how would you know that I'm lying? You've never seen my wardrobe.
Yeah.
So that's basically, so it makes more sense to believe in God in the sense that there's always going to be something that science cannot prove. So, because obviously new studies lead to new discussions,
of course,
and so on and so forth.
Yeah, yeah.
So that little grey area of lack of knowledge, that's where God is. He couldn't have revealed all the truths of us to us at one time. Our brains would have exploded. I can't even handle pre-calculus, let alone the truths of the universe.
Very true,
yeah, and the fact that, like I say, things about Islam are coming true now that were predicted 1,400 years ago, why does that mean that then him saying that there's one creator who created the heavens and the earth and the universe could also not be true?
100%, yeah, 100%. Definitely.
You know what? Obviously, it is almost Maghrib time, so I think we should start wrapping up. But I'll say a few points, and before that, Jazakallah khair for coming today and joining us for the podcast.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you for accepting and for having me.
Yeah, no,
this is my first podcast. I was really, really nervous.
Yeah, I hope you enjoyed.
You did great, mashallah.
Hope you enjoyed your experience here.
Yeah,
we really love listening to you. Huh?
This has recorded all of this, right? Because I haven't got the little recording button flashing up on my screen.
No, I'm recording it independently for it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's fine. But yeah, Jazakallah khair for coming. I think you know what, like, I'm not gonna lie, like, I was going to ask more questions and stuff, but then when you were talking, I forgot we were on the podcast. I was just listening. I thought I was listening to like a lecture or something, because I completely forgot we were recording. Subhanallah.
I'm happy to do a part 2 at any point.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah, 100%.
Definitely do another one. One thing I would say, like, for me personally, obviously, I wasn't practicing from the beginning, but one of the things that sort of made me practice my faith a lot more, or look at my faith a lot more, was the fact that when we look at Islam, it is so unbelievably confident in itself. Like the Quran in itself, when it starts, it says that, listen, this is a book without faults. This whole book, with all the pages in it, talking about economics, talking about politics, talking about this, talking about society, individual, blah, 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 right? All of this, it says, this is a book without faults. This is the book from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, with his hadith and stuff, there's just so much confidence in it, right? And then, the challenges, I'm sure you guys have heard of the challenges. To prove Islam or to disprove Islam, there's like 3-4 points.
Oh, what they call the Quran challenge.
Yeah, the Quran challenge.
If you think you can provide something of equal or greater value,
exactly,
then by all
to
means,
if
you have witnesses, bring them forward. Yeah. I'm paraphrasing horrifically there, but well, apparently
it's very good.
Apparently someone has actually done that.
I think I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
Yeah. Where basically it turned out what he did was he took a verse from the Bible and then put it together with a similar verse from the Quran and just rewrote the language slightly so it all flowed together.
Yeah.
But then obviously I think people who obviously do know the Quran and the Bible said, "Hang on a minute, you've just used verses from both books and stuck them together. That doesn't count."
Yeah.
And I was speaking to I forget the brother's name now. He's American, but he lives in London. He's from Houston. He's Afghani. Jamil.
Jamal
something?
Nasser?
No, well, maybe he's got very long hair and a beard.
Okay, right. I
But
wouldn't
he
know.
was. He came down to. He's done a couple of talks on the uni for Discover Islam Week at the uni,
Right.
and he said that people have been trying for 1400 years to do this.
Yeah,
Mm.
exactly.
Even native Arabic speakers have tried to do this. They can't.
Mm.
They end up
Yeah.
writing just weird poetry as opposed to religiously significant poetry.
Mm.
Yeah, exactly. You know,
And-
it's like like the Quran, it says it so confidently. The Prophet ﷺ, he says his hadith so confidently, and the fact is, no one can disprove it. Like, it's not
No.
just confident, and as soon as it happens, some other person's like, wait, no, that's wrong. No one can say it's wrong, and it's crazy, man. But yeah, with
exactly.
that said, my parents are yelling at me right now, saying I need to go pray.
So I'll make one last point on that, and then obviously we can wrap this up.
Definitely.
Apologize to your parents for me, of course. Which was, like I say, about in regards to the Quran challenge. If people at that time when it was revealed, and it was basically revealed almost in their version of common language, if they couldn't match that,
Yeah.
what makes these like people from DCCI ministries or David Wood think they can do it?
They can do it.
And they can't
100%, yeah.
speak
Yeah,
basic
exactly.
Arabic, let alone
Yeah.
Quranic classical Arabic.
Yeah.
So
100%.
yeah, so the day that, like I say, someone can disprove Islam is the day that we'll talk about that. But I highly doubt that will ever happen.
Yeah, if that would have
Because
happened,
you
it would have
can't.
happened in these last 1400 years. It would have happened.
Yeah, exactly.
But the fact
So-
is, it didn't.
I mean, it would have happened when the Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessing be upon him, was alive.
Yeah.
Because and if they couldn't disprove the guy that's preaching it, then how can you disprove everything that follows on from that?
Yeah, exactly.
So,
Definitely.
but anyway, brothers, you're right. We need to go pray. So I apologize to your families for me.
No worries.
It's not always
But
right.
yeah, I guess with that said, Jazakallah khair for joining us today. Please do subscribe to Tahib, the Observer. His YouTube will be linked down in the description below. Check him out. But yeah, with that said, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.